They're dancing in downtown Los Angeles. They're duping in Chester. MLS Cup is set. The Audi 2022 MLS Cup playoffs come down to one game, and it's the number one seeds who got there for the first time since 2003. Nearly 20 years it took, but we're back. The best teams from the regular season. The Shield winner, the team that pushed them to the brink, LAFC, Philadelphia. Saturday, November 5th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, out at Banc of California Stadium. Oh, what a game it will be. Welcome into the AT&T 5G Virtual Studios. I am Andrew Wiebe. With me, Charlie Davies, Matt Doyle, Jordan Angeli. We got the matchup that the regular season said we should get, Doyle. Both these teams here for the first time. Both these teams looking for the ultimate prize, the one that they want in their trophy cabinet. No, Shield, we don't need it. We need the cup. This is a huge, huge moment for both clubs.
It absolutely is. And, because it is their first trip to MLS Cup and because one of these two teams will lift MLS Cup for the first time, it's a spectacular moment for both of them. And it feels good because it feels earned. For the reason that you said, this is the first time since 2003 that we've seen the number one seed in each conference get to MLS Cup and face off against each other. And the other thing is, these are clearly two of the best franchises in the league. Year after year after year, they crank out really good, really watchable teams, different styles as well, and styles make fights. There's a lot to be amped about for next weekend.
Mm-hmm. And not just that, they built their teams differently too. And I feel like that's a really big point. Is it's a roster built off a lot of homegrown talent in Philadelphia. In LA, it's a roster built off a lot of stars. But I do love this. We've had this conversation throughout the whole entire year. Who's it going to be, Philly or LAFC? And here we are with the opportunity in LA to get to see who it truly is going to be, who's going to lift the cup. And it's exciting that it's another new winner this year. I know you had a pretty good stat about that, Doyle, about how many new teams in the TAM era have won.
Yes, it'll be 6 times in 8 years since the introduction of TAM in 2015. So it's just reordered the league. But as you said, you can win in different ways. And these two teams, it's really emblematic of that.
Charlie, this is a live shot here in Chester on the banks of the Delaware. You've played matches in these colors. You've been a part of this team. They've been almost there last year, almost there in Open Cup finals. Well, they're in this final. They got to go on the road. What does this mean to Philly?
It means everything. I mean, this team has been through a lot together, and at the core of it is Jim Curtin and Alejandro Bedoya. Then you throw in Andre Blake, and you're looking at a club that has grown into this powerhouse and introducing young, talented players and getting them the experience they need so that they can make an impact. And this club deserves this success. They've made the right moves in the transfer market, in the window. They've made the right moves in terms of believing in certain players and giving them the opportunity to grow and develop. I mean, Carranza, I don't think anyone saw that except for obviously the Union, but this was a player who struggled. Didn't look like he could cut it in this league. And here he is scoring a big time to goal in an MLS Cup Eastern Conference final. It's crazy. So I really love what I've seen from them, and kudos to everyone involved, because it wasn't easy, that's for sure. But now they've hit the sweet spot.
They're here, 90 minutes, maybe extra time, maybe PKs, whatever it takes. Next weekend, they're banging the drum in Philly. Oh, what a win it was for them! But it didn't start the way that we thought it might start, Charlie. This is a goal for guys like no, it's offside. And look, Philly were pushing, but through the first half, nobody found a breakthrough.
No, it was tough because normally you think it's a corner kick the way it's positioned, but it's a free kick, so he was in an offside position. And then Philly I think they were slow, and then all of a sudden, you see Bedoya, the controversy. Should he start? Should he not? They're going to go with he's the captain, and he pulls up with that reoccurring hip injury, and they have to make the sub at halftime.
Huge save. Andre Blake, who kept a minute, but then it would come for New York City. They get the first, and here's the goal for Philly to get them back in it, Jordan.
And that was the big change of momentum, right? It's off of actually bringing in a new player for New York City, they bring in Keaton Parks and just a little bit sleeping. And then after that, they get caught twice in a row within 5 minutes, such a dangerous period after you get a goal scored against you, because then if your back line isn't organized, this is a Philadelphia team who loves momentum and they use it for their good. And then Burke just comes on and beast modes through everybody, just basically domino effect as he takes this ball to the house. I felt like once Philly got a little glimpse that they could be back in this game, everybody kind of knew that it was going to be over. It felt like that, at least from home. Their fans got back into it, and it really, the tides changed quickly.
David Goss has seen a lot of these games in Chester. He's seen Open Cup finals. He's now seen an Eastern Conference final that saw the Philadelphia Union move through. Jim Curtin will coach in his first MLS Cup. Dave caught up with Jim after this match.
All right, MLS Cup, the Philadelphia Union. What are you feeling right now?
Look, our first ever, obviously, so it's incredibly exciting. Credit to the crowd here tonight. It's been amazing. The players, when it's 1-0, it's a really difficult task to come back. Doubt starts to creep in. You start to think about last year and the disappointment. But this group doesn't quit. It's full credit to the players. They're incredible. They have a lot of heart and represent this city very well.
Two big subs. It was McGlynn at halftime and then Corey Burke coming off. What was the ideas behind those, and what did you see?
Corey was possessed. I'd imagine they'll be tested for doping after this game because he came on and was just relentless. So he gave us a ton. Jack McGlynn, again, it's a fast-paced game. It settled down a little bit in the second half, and you can see his quality with the ball. It's still a learning experience for him because it was intense and fast, but can't say enough about the guys that came on and helped us.
You talked about unfinished business. You talked about revenge. Is it sweet?
It feels great to win this one, but we still have work to do. Obviously, to go to LA is no easy task. Stevie's done a great job with LA and their group, but we have a chance now. We'll see.
This team didn't exist when you grew up. They didn't exist when you were playing. What does it mean for soccer in Philadelphia and this club to be going to MLS Cup?
Yeah, look, man, I was a Barkley, Cunningham, those kind of guys were the guys I looked up to. So for all the young kids in this stadium to have, heroes now to look up to is something that's really cool. We've built it up here in Philly gradually, bit by bit, but you can see we're on par with what's going on with the Phillies, with the Eagles, and it's been special to watch it grow.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Phillies in the World Series. Union going to MLS Cup, Doyle. This is the promised land, and it's been stop-start, let's say, to start for this club. It was not good in the early days, but then they changed their mindset. They changed their approach. Jim Curtin became the head coach, and they put faith in him eventually after those one-year contracts were up. This is a huge moment for this club. What does it mean for the Union?
Yeah, it means a lot. It codifies everything that they've done. If they I think they're already there. I think they're already one of the teams, whether they win or lose, they're one of the teams that we all expect to be there year after year after year. We all expect them to produce good young players like Jack McGlynn and to find players off the scrap heap like Chiellini Carranza. We expect that from them, but we all know what Rings culture is. We all know that we remember the MLS Cup winners first from basically every season of the league's existence. And this project that Philly have embarked upon, and it's happened over the course of 3 different general managers over the past 7 years or so, but they've kept that momentum up. They want the trophy. They want the trophy to stack on top of all that and to show that what they've built and the way that they've built it, you can be a champion doing it that way in MLS. And for them to, go head to head with NYCFC, who's not exactly throwing around Insigne money, but they're not a small spending team. And then to go to LA and to face that team who have 37 DPs on the roster, it's significant. And I think that Jim Curtin is probably going to use that as leverage for this coming week to get his guys amped up, just as he used the notion of revenge throughout the playoffs to aim them directly at this game.
Charlie, I see your boy there, Alejandro Bedoya. He's got the little wrap. That hip flexor couldn't get more than a half out of him. But when he came to Philly, this is what he talked about. These are the moments that he wanted to deliver. What do you think this means to Ale? What does it mean to all these guys that have been there, that have seen some dark times and ushered them into really an era of supercharged success? I'm
so happy for Alejandro Bedoya. I know how hard he works, how much it means to him. He's the ultimate competitor, always wants to win and do whatever it takes. And I knew if he could play, no matter if it was for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, he was going to start this game just because he's that emotional character in that group. He's the one who sets the standard. He's the one that gets everyone to raise their level, holds people accountable. It's those things that he possesses that you can't measure. He was going to start this game, and that's okay. If it didn't work out, it was worth the risk because he means that much to the team. And thankfully, he could get to halftime, so he didn't waste a substitution window, which is great for the Union. But it's amazing to see him hoist the trophy, considering how much he's put into this project. I mean, he came back to the United States to play in Major League Soccer because he believed in this project that they sold him. And here he is raising the Eastern Conference title. It's incredible. I'm so happy for them. And I'm also so happy for Paul Rushing, the trainer, who was getting a lot of airtime in this game.
How often do you see a trainer on camera at that amount of time? Huh?
Incredible. All the guys with the equipment manager, B and Dan Nolan. I mean, these guys, they put so much work into it. It's an incredible club. I mean, they focus so much on developing talent, and that can get lost when you're trying to chase a MLS Cup because you're thinking, oh, we got to invest in these big time signings, and that's the opposite. Obviously, LAFC is the giant, and you have Gareth Bale on one side, Christian Teo, Chiellini. I mean, you have some big time names, and here on the other side you have Jack McGlynn and Jack Elliott, and so it's going to be a really interesting final. And both teams, the way we saw them play today, it's going to be fireworks. They're going to give everything they have, and I expected a high tempo, intense game.
Let's dig into this game before we hit another interview out from Chester, Jordan. There was a little bit of a rocky moment there. Maxi Morales scores, and it feels like, okay, well, NYCFC's taking the momentum on the road. Is this deja vu for Philly? But an almost immediate response. What did you see from the Union in this game?
I felt like the Union struggled in the first half because this is a team that wants to go pretty direct. And I think that they weren't quite pressing New York City in a way that made them feel uncomfortable. And so from what I saw in the first half, New York City controlled the tempo of a game against Philadelphia Union, who they want to go and be on the front foot. The goal that New York City scored was a perfect goal. And I think it shows you a little bit about how big Anton Tinnerholm is for this team. And him and Pereira on that right side really were a menace, not only in the first half, but here in the second half when they get the goal. And the Union couldn't quite find their footing. But I mentioned it earlier on. I do think this is a Union squad who thrive off of momentum. They get a little taste that they can switch the momentum. And once they got a look at goal, it was all downhill from there for them because they grabbed it, they went with it, and it didn't feel like they were going to let go. And then New York City couldn't find any grasp at it. They struggled then in the midfield, and you could really see if you get them stretched out, New York City, that it's easy to play through them. And the Union just had their way there in the last few minutes of this second half.
Julian Carranza, Daniel Gazdag, Corey Burke, all scoring goals in this game. Two of those three part of the three-man group with Mikaura, which was one of the most prolific in the league this year, Doyle. We talked about maybe the way that Philly are bent. You always go to the homegrowns. It's easy to feel that way. The investment in the academy, you see McKenzie, you see, of course, Brennan Aronson on the big stage this weekend. It's also been Ernst Tanner finding bargains and finding guys that go from, oh, who's that, to best 11, MVP candidate, guy that was on the scrap heap, now seems to be worth all the money that Inter Miami, not Philadelphia, paid for him. This is a team that finds players and develops talent.
Yeah, and that is the ethos. That is the DNA of who they are. And Ernst Tanner deserves a ton of credit for that. The players themselves deserve a ton of credit for that. I think Jim Curtin is probably the key to all of it. Like, it's not a mistake that just about every player who plays for him gets better, whether it's a young guy like McGlynn or whether it's an established pro like Daniel Gazdag. And Gazdag's literally talked about that this year. He's talked about how he's improved as a player playing for the Philadelphia Union. And that's a guy who was brought in basically as a DP last year. The guy, scoring against Germany in the Nations League for Hungary. It's a really good. It's like a superpower in this league because you don't get a lot of finished products in MLS. You don't get a lot of guys who are on the primes of their careers and are super elite players. You're always going to have to sand down at a rough edge here, or polish something up over there. And if you have a club culture that doesn't just allow for that, but it encourages that, you're going to have a good team year after year after year, even when you sell guys like Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie. And guess what, guys? They're probably going to sell 2 more at least this winter. They're going to make a lot of money off of it. They're going to have to replace them. And I'm not going to bet against them doing that at a high level because we've seen them do it repeatedly now.
Jakob Glesnes, one of those guys that came to this league, fringe national teamer, becomes the defender of the year in 2022. He had a chat with David Goss after this win in Chester.
We know, of course, all about last year and everything that went into that. Then this year you go down 1-0. What's the mindset, what's the conversation around that team?
To be honest, I don't know what we was thinking because we was looking at a totally new team after they scored 1-0 there. So it looks like we was waking up, and now it's history. We're standing here and we won 3-1, so it's an amazing feeling.
Corey comes off the bench. Did you know he could have an impact like that?
Yeah, for sure. We know Corey. He is a beast. So that he was coming in and he was on fire today. It was beautiful, and the atmosphere at the stadium here was fantastic. Yeah, I had goosebumps all over the body. So yeah, it was beautiful.
And down 1-0, the big moment, the big save. What's it like to have Andre Blake behind you?
No, he had been fantastic the whole season, or the season after season. So yeah, he's a fantastic goalie, but also a fantastic person. So it's fantastic to have him behind us.
Defender of the year, MLS Cup, headed to it. How does the week feel?
I can't describe it. It is wonderful. It's just to stay here now after, I don't know what's going through my mind because, yeah, it is crazy.
Let me try and ask you one to think about. LAFC, you've played some great games against them. What's MLS Cup going to be like?
It will be a tough game. We know every time we are playing against them that is always a tough game. So we have a big belief in the group. It doesn't matter if we are home or we are away. We will go for the MLS Cup this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's that Eastern Conference path for the Philadelphia Union. Had Cincinnati, their brothers, at least in management, in that conference semifinal, made their way through 1-0, tight margins there. Not so tight in the conference final, 3-1 victory against NYCFC at home. They will not be at home in MLS Cup. They're going to the Supporters Shield winners, LAFC. They will host next weekend. Jordan, let's wrap things up for NYCFC. They've got the star. They got it last year. It was not to be this year. What did you see from them in this game, and why'd they come up short?
I felt like they were very brave coming into this game in the way that they played, and they have looked more and more like themselves. We were talking about it on Spaces earlier today, as the way that they can press in this 3-4-3, and they gave the Union a run for their money in that first 45, and the way that they built out of the back, I think it allows, especially Tinnerholm, to really be effective for them. But this is a team that if you're going to play 3 in the back, you have to have 3 solid central backs, and I think that was a difficult part. Is Justin Hack comes in, and there were times where he's just not quite at the same level as the center backs next to him. And we saw it on the second goal there, the game-winning goal in the end, and that cost them. But there are so many things that I think when New York City looks back on this season and how they played after winning MLS Cup, not a lot of teams do this, you guys. We know this. Year after year, it's hard to get yourself back, not just to the playoffs, but running and trying to make it to MLS Cup. And I think this New York City team learned a lot about themselves, did a lot of different formations, worked through some things, but there's a lot to look forward to for them going forward after a year where they battled through some really difficult moments.
I would also add that Eber just really struggled tonight. I mean, Tati Castellanos, what he brought to the table is he could link up, hold up play, very important. How many times did we see Eber get a ball and lose it? Or they played a chip ball to him to hold up, he loses it to Jack Elliott. Just didn't really regain possession or keep possession for the team, wasn't dangerous. And without service in the box, you're not going to get much from him. He's not a player who gets on the dribble and beats players. And I think with him not being strong tonight, that really hurt New York City FC in transition, in keeping possession. And that's the only way you can beat this Union team is by controlling the tempo, playing quick, switching the point of attack, and then getting after them. And they did not do that effectively tonight, outside of that one opportunity from Tinnerholm.
Yeah, that goal was sick, though. Like, their goal was picture
sick.
Perfect of that. And
look, maybe better Tinnerholm than we saw this year, next year, as he recovers from injury. So, Doyle, take us look ahead for us. What's next? Nick Cushing in the middle of the year, we might have said, I don't know if he's going to get the job. It feels like this is his job now. So what do you do in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, they have to get Tinnerholm 100%. They have to get Keaton Parks 100%, because to Charlie's point, if Keaton Parks is in there, they're probably controlling the tempo better. They're probably using the ball better to crack the Union open and create scoring chances sort of through the lines, and not just, having to spread the game out completely. So they need to get those guys healthy, because we saw it this year. When they have those guys at their best, they are one of the true elite teams in the league, and they were tonight for 65 minutes. And then the other thing is they have to figure out how to upgrade that back line. Alex Collins is going into free agency. They have to keep him. Thiago Martins, they brought him in as a DP. He did not play at that level this year. Justin Hack, a promising young player, was probably a little bit out of his depth in this one. They have to make sure that he improves year over year. I think they'll do it. I don't see any reason to think this team isn't going to be 50 to 55 points, maybe even 60 points again, and potentially in position to make another deep playoff run. They are at that level. They've shown, since 2016, they have the most regular season points in the league, and now they have 2 deep playoff runs to go with it and a cup. There's no reason to think NYCFC is going away, even though Father Time is going to finally at some point start creeping up on Maxi.
Oh, man, what a playoff performance for him once again. Just not quite enough for NYCFC to go to the hump against the Union. That is the opposite of what we saw last year. And what did we see last year? NYCFC get that star, win MLS Cup. Philly is trying to do the same on the road. Andre Blake is going to his first MLS Cup final. David Goss caught up with the goalkeeper of the year.
Andre, let's start with this. You've been here. This is your day one. This is your one club. What does it feel like to finally get to this point and go to MLS Cup?
I'm so happy, man. I'm not an emotional person, but, I have to be fighting back tears right now. This club, they deserve it. This city deserve it. And words just can't express, how I feel right now. And as you said, Philadelphia is all I know, man. I've had a lot of close miss Open Cup, last year. So I'm just so happy to finally get to the MLS Cup, and hopefully we can go there in a tough place to play and grind out something.
Down 1-0, walk me through that save. That ball comes in close to you, you get down, walk me through what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great save at a great moment, but that's what I'm there for. I said to the guys early in the locker room, stay steady, stay calm. The game might not go the way we want it, but it's important that we stay calm, stay steady. If they score, we just need to not let them score a second goal and we'll still be in the game, and tonight they scored first. I was able to make an important save at an important time, and then the guys scored 3 really good goals, and I'm just happy for everybody, and we're just going to enjoy tonight.
It was your Jamaican teammate, Corey Burke, coming off the bench. What did you see from him?
He's phenomenal. You should see his work rate in training. I'm so happy for him. He come in and he gives us a boost off the bench. If you have a guy like that coming off the bench, it can be really good for you, and he deserves it. I'm just so happy for him.
Does DeAndre want to do one?
DeAndre, say hi.
Hi. Congratulations. Enjoy it.
All right, thank you.
Oh, wow, coming up big in that moment, just like Dad. I got to tell you, I got a kid upstairs. It's about the same age. He would have froze up. He would have froze up there. DeAndre there for the high at the end. And, of course, Andre Blake on to MLS Cup. A huge moment for him and Philadelphia Union. A big night as well for the Audi Goals Drive Progress program. Back for another year of playoff soccer. For every goal scored in the Audi MLS Cup playoffs, $2,000 is being contributed to the Audi Goals Drive Progress Fund directly, supporting MLS youth academies and maybe DeAndre's soccer future one day. We're hoping to see even more goals next Saturday. Of course, we saw 7 tonight for each goal scored on Saturday. Audi's going to donate $10,000. Thanks to 35 goals scored so far, $70,000 has been donated by Audi so far. And don't forget, you can visit BR Football's Instagram and tune into the Driving Force story for match previews and highlights of the Audi MLS Cup playoffs. The most electric moments go there. So I know you're on Instagram. You can't lie to me. I know you're killing time late at night, maybe right before you go to sleep. Get that good screen in front of you. Go to BR Football. Check out those best moments. Here are your conference finals, how it shook out today on this Sunday. Philadelphia, 3-1 winners against NYCFC, on to their first MLS Cup. And it's a first MLS Cup as well for LAFC, 3-0 winners against Austin FC. Let's take a look at those highlights from the early game as LAFC booked their place in MLS Cup. The destination, Charlie, they always wanted to be in this time of year. The TIFO goes up. It's a beautiful fall afternoon in downtown LA, and the home team is dominant. What could be better?
It's MLS Cup or bust for LAFC. With the roster they assembled, those are the expectations. And that's the precedent they're trying to set. We're going out to win MLS Cup. This is our group. We're good enough, and they were today. I mean, you just felt it build, the momentum going. The chances kept coming. Stuver kept standing on his head, and then all of a sudden, boom. Boom, and you just saw it coming, that this LAFC team outplayed them.
Maxi Arruti didn't see that one coming. I had to say it. I'm sorry.
Austin just weren't dangerous enough. And then here's that questionable moment. PK or not. And, the referee got summoned to the monitor for a clear and obvious error. Well, he decided to stick with his call on the field. No penalty. And then soon after, Opoku, the substitute, comes in and bangs the third one, and that was game over.
That's it. 3-0, Jordan. This was a dominant performance in the moment in which you might have thought, okay, is it going to be too big for LA? Is all the expectation going to weigh on them? Absolutely was not. Here they are lifting that cup, booking their spot at home in MLS Cup.
Yeah, it looks at moments in this game, it was harder for them to lift that trophy than it was to play, because that trophy, they lifted it with ease, and they looked like they were playing with ease today. Everything was going right for them. I thought that they handled and controlled the space on the field, that they were relentless in their pressure of Austin, really went after them and minimized the number of plays that Austin could play out through the back, and then just gobbled up first and second balls. There was the work of the three in midfield for this LAFC team. I want to know the metrics on Kellen Acosta, how much ground he covered. Ilie was constantly double teaming, winning second balls. And then Cifuentes, his ability to break the line of pressure with his runs from the midfield in through the back line. I thought there were a number of times where we could have seen him on the score sheet. These three worked so well together and really orchestrated a substantially, I think that's one of the best performances we've seen from LAFC, to be honest.
I think Steve Cherundolo agreed with you. Giorgio Chiellini really didn't have to play a huge role in this game. Austin FC did not test them. He caught up with Susanna Collins, his friend from the call, up on the field at the bank after this big win.
Giorgio, you came here to win trophies, and now you guys will have a chance next weekend to lift the MLS Cup. What does this mean to you?
Yeah, it's very important for me, for the team. This is our target, our goal for this season. Now we win just one game. It's important that we be happy today, but just focus on the next game from tomorrow. Now we need just 95 minutes in order to lift another trophy, and I want to congratulate with the team, with the fans, and now we have to enjoy this moment.
Defensively, another clean sheet for you guys. An incredible performance. What worked on the back line today?
The team did a fantastic game. Fantastic effort, and it was very important when the midfield and the forwards help us in this way. It became too easy.
Congratulations, Giorgio.
Yeah, we're excited to be in the MLS Cup final. That was our objective, and I think the guys did an emphatic job of making sure it was only one team playing here next Saturday. They did, I think, the best I've seen this year of them implementing our match plan from the first minute to the end. Which gives us coaches and hopefully the fans and everybody watching a better feeling watching the game and not worrying until the final minute. So very proud of the guys tonight, and but what I experienced in the locker room is still hunger and want for more, and we'll keep the level of focus as high as possible for another week, and hope to have a similar press conference next Saturday.
I hope it's not similar to that. We need a little more emotion from Steve if they win MLS Cup. Gotta say, bring it out, coach, bring it out. But this is quiet confidence, Doyle, and this is a place that LAFC has wanted to be through their entire existence, have not gotten there. And Steve, in his first year, gets there.
Yeah.
What does that mean for him as a coach? What does it mean for the club, and how did they do it?
I mean, for him as a coach, it's huge because if you look at what he has done in his coaching career, he had been kind of a vagabond, right? I thought he was going to catch on as a player immediately with Hanover, and he didn't last there. And he went from one stop to another, and then he ended up with Las Vegas Lights. They didn't have the greatest record, but he got this job, and he's done a lot with it. And they've become more pragmatic. This is a team that is much more comfortable playing on the counter than they were under Bob Bradley. They're not necessarily going to try to have 60% possession every game. They don't press as much. They're much better on set pieces. And I think they did all of that with an eye toward being a team to beat in the playoffs. Like, they took a look at how Seattle kept, getting the better of them in the postseason. They said, we have to be a little bit more of that. And they were a little bit more of that. And, we're going to talk about it later. It said, they killed Austin on set pieces, but they killed Austin every which way. Austin came out in that sort of 4-4-2 blob midfield. It wasn't a high line and it wasn't a low line. They weren't getting pressure to the ball. So LAFC just took what was given to them and played over the top again and again and again. Look, I don't like watching this LAFC team as much as I like the 2019 team, but this team can beat you a million different ways. And that's the mark of a well-coached team. And it's a mark of a team that deserves to host this MLS Cup final. And if they win it, they're the first team in a long time to do the double. And we have to start talking about them as like, where do they belong in that pantheon of all-time great MLS teams? That's the stakes for this LAFC side.
I think they've lost twice at home this year. One was against this Austin FC team who beat LAFC twice in the regular season. But these are the money moments, as you say. And then on decision day against Nashville. Jordan, how big of a favorite are they in MLS Cup? They're at home. They're the one seed, the Shield runners. They're the favorite, but how big is it against the Union in your mind?
It seems pretty big. And when you hear the 32-52 in full voice at noon on a Sunday, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be quite the advantage for them. But just the way that they play, and I think that at home, they feel a lot more comfortable with what Doyle was just saying, like dictating the play, dictating their style, which is a little bit more comfortable on counterattacks, which against this Union team should add, be an interesting matchup where both teams want to go in transition. I think it's a massive, massive advantage to host this because you're thinking if it was the other way, you'd probably pick Philly in Philly. So it's hard. LAFC at home, how good they've been with the right players feeling confident at the right time. It's going to be a tough one for Philadelphia.
But you know what LAFC have now that they were missing there for a little while, Doyle? Set piece dominance. That's basically how they won this game. First two goals both came from set pieces.
Yeah, something that went missing for them when they had that bad stretch in late summer. But you see this one, Giorgio Chiellini, he sets a pick. He takes out two Austin defenders, and that leaves Maxi Urruti isolated on Musa Chite, and Chite knows nothing about it. Or not Maxi Urruti, Chicho Arango isolated on Musa Chite, and Chite knows nothing about it. These were the types of goals that, for all the pretty play, for all the counterattacking that LAFC did the first 5 months of the year, they were scoring a lot of those goals as well. And they disappeared in August, in September, and into October. They've come back the past two games. The winner against the Galaxy, and now the first two goals for them in this game. Set pieces, playoffs, wins you titles, man. It just does.
Poor Maxi Urruti comes in. His first touch for Austin off the bench was the blind header into his own net. LAFC up 2-0. And then there was a PK shout, Charlie, which we'll get to in a second. But first, we got to hear from Ilie Sanchez, who was maybe one of the signings of the offseason, coming over from Sporting Kansas City as a free agent, one of the best D-mids in the league. He caught up with Susanna after this win at the bank.
Ilie Sanchez, MLS Cup has always been the goal for this team. For you personally as a player, you're headed to an MLS Cup final. What does this moment mean?
Everything. It means everything for me, but especially for all these people that has been here since day one. 5 seasons, more than 6, 7, 8 years, preparing this club for this moment, and we got it this season, and we are so happy for that.
You have been an absolute boss in the midfield for LAFC, and you contained a very potent Austin attack, especially Sebastian Driussi. What was working for you guys today?
We just executed. The plan is from Steve, from the coaching staff. I think that has been hit like this the whole season. And today we just had to do it one more time. Austin is a great team, probably the best team in the West, if not in the league, and we are very pleased with our performance today.
Take this all in right now. These fans have been waiting for this. You guys will host MLS Cup at Bank of California Stadium. Can you even imagine what it's going to be like next weekend?
Well, we had this in our mind since the playoff started. We had two fantastic opponents coming into the bank. I'm sure that the third one is going to be the same or even better. So, I think this team, I've said it many times, it has been built for this moment, and we cannot let it slip.
Well deserved, Ilie. Congratulations. We'll see you next weekend.
Thank you so much.
The bank was absolutely grooving this afternoon. I was there for the first ever match at Bank of California, a dramatic win. Virtue of Laurent Simon. He's not around, but this team has transitioned. There's plenty of stars, plenty of guys that have been there. Carlos Vela still there. But Charlie, we got to talk PKs, man. Ding, 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 enter the ring. I've been there with the Austin FC fans all afternoon arguing this Diego Fagundes call that was not called on the field by Armando Villarreal, one of the best referees in MLS this year. He was called to the monitor, and he stuck with his original call. There appears to me to be a step from Sebastian Ibañez on the right foot of Diego Fagundes. For me, I think this is a penalty. What do you think?
It's, for me, the reason why he didn't call the penalty is the embellishment after the foot stomp. And is it a lot of pressure? Is it an aggressive stomp on the foot? No. I think it's harsh to stick with the call if you've been called to the monitor by the VAR, because they obviously are telling you it's a clear and obvious error. There's contact, and that's what I think really comes down to, is contact that took place inside the box. I'm okay with it going either way. I'm telling you, if I was on the field, I would expect this to be a penalty. That's just how it goes. The defender made an attempt to play the ball, completely missed, and got the top of Diego's foot. I think the reason why it wasn't called, though, was just the way he fell. It just seemed like he was selling it, and in that case, I think for the referee's viewpoint, it's just not enough for him to warrant a penalty.
Jordan, how much would this change the game? I mean, you're looking at Austin. I don't think they had a shot on goal at this point in the match. They were overmatched basically for 95 minutes outside of this one moment of debate. How much does this one call potentially change this game, and what did you think of their game overall?
Who's to say? I think it would have potentially changed it, but also the way LAFC was executing, I don't know how much of a change it really would have brought for this Austin team, because they didn't really show any signs of hope. Who needed to be on the ball? It was Driussi who wasn't on the ball because Austin was getting so high pressured. They were bypassing, trying to find the forwards, and with Driussi straight next to Gite, he couldn't win the second ball. He couldn't be effective on the dribble going at a back line, which is where he is at his best. And so would that one call have changed the way that he found the game? I'm not quite sure. But I think that it could have given a little bit more hope to this team and maybe given them a little bit of a push. But it didn't seem like it was in it today for Austin. It felt like LAFC was in control from nearly the beginning of the game.
So,
yeah, I mean they absolutely were. It was just kind of a no-show of a performance from Austin FC, and you have to give them credit for getting as far as they did in these playoffs, especially with the way things started against RSL. But I think they hit their ceiling in this one, and you run into the buzzsaw, and the buzzsaw kills you. And that's what LAFC did to them today. But Austin did bring it on themselves. I'm still confused about what their game plan was going into this one. Like I said, they didn't really press high. They didn't get anything to LAFC's defenders, so that Murillo was able to pick his pass again and again and again, whether it was Cifuentes, as we're seeing here, or Bouanga running through the lines. This happened a half dozen times in the first half alone, and they didn't adjust on the fly. And you have to be able to recognize that. And I assume like that's going to be something that Josh Wolf will want to work on in the off season, but it's not something that they had in their bag today. And it's the difference between a pretty good team that had a nice season and made a really credible run and a team that deserves to be an MLS Cup.
Credit to Josh Wolf after year one. I mean, there were some shouts in Austin about whether or not he should be the manager of this team. He stuck to his principles. He got his team to play. That way, he got an MVP caliber season out of Sebastian Driussi. But Charlie, they're in CONCACAF Champions League now. That's sort of an underreported thing with Philly and LAFC getting there. They both earned their spots through the regular season, Shield and finishing atop the East. So you add on another, front to compete on. You have Leagues Cup coming in as well, which they will be a part of. There will be a lot of different things that try to draw their attention in this offseason moving into 2023. What should they be focused on?
Well, I look at today's match, and the one stat that stands out to me is touches in the box. Austin had just 8 in 90 minutes, 8 to LAFC's 34. That gives you an idea. Gite, who's your starting striker, Rigoni, who's you're supposed to be your big-time DP, had 0 touches in the box this game. Arango, to put it in perspective, had 11. So I'm looking at this Austin team, and I'm saying you had a great season, tremendous season, in knowing that you're still a couple pieces away from being a real dangerous threat, because this was all extra credit at this point. I think the RSL game was pretty telling, even though they were able to come back and show the maturity and the resilience. But going down 2-0 to RSL, and RSL is they don't have anyone that's really special. There's no game changer on that team. They're a complete team type mentality, and they did that in the first 20 minutes of the game and shocked Austin. But I think for them to get to the next level, you need a striker that you can depend on, hold up play, finisher. Gite, he had his one moment, but that's not. I haven't seen consistency from him. So do they stick with him and say, all right, we've seen some positives, we're going to ride with you, or they go out and get a striker? And then Rigoni hasn't worked out so well. And today, again, a very uninspiring performance. So you look at those two spots. Could you upgrade the outside backs? Yes. In center backs, I thought Cascante actually played well above his average this season for Austin, much better. And Gabrielson, he had some good moments. Brad Stuver in goal. I mean, he had a couple shaky decisions today, but he's been very solid. I mean, he's been above average, actually, in Major League Soccer. So they have a lot of good building blocks foundation-wise, but if they want to go out and be one of the top teams in the Western Conference, they have to go out and get a top number 9.
Yep, they got to do better with that DP spot. Rigoni, no goals, no assists since joining. And look, maybe the David Goss second-year bump, the theorem, we know about it. Daniel Gazdag was a beneficiary, but he showed a lot in his short time in year one. Got to get more of those U22 spots as well. But I do think there is more ceiling for this Austin team to reach for next year. CCL, it can be painful. So can the playoffs. LAFC fell all the way to MLS Cup, the first time 2 number 1 seeds have gotten to this point, to the final since 2003. LAFC 3-0 winners against Austin, the 2 seed, and then the defending MLS Cup champions, NYCFC, going back to Philly for a second straight year, but this time taking an L, which leads us to November 5th, MLS Cup, Bank of California, Los Angeles, all the bright lights, Hollywood, Owen Wilson, Will Ferrell. Which celebrities will show up? We have no idea. I'm sure those tickets are going to be a hot commodity.
KD going to be there?
I don't know, man. It depends
No,
on
he
the trade.
couldn't be there.
Depends on the trade market, Doyle. I think you're going to be going from that side of the country. We will see. All right, Jordan, get us started as we look at the MLS Cup. We will, of course, be hitting this really hard all week on Extra Time, the call-up, and all the MLS properties out there. But what is the one thing you're looking forward to? What gets you going the most? Can be on the field, can be off the field, whatever you want.
I'm going to go on the field because I have loved these two players all season long. So I'm looking forward to Jose Martinez and Ilie Sanchez and really how well they can dictate the play. Can Ilie Sanchez handle Gazdag? What does that matchup look like? And how does Martinez handle the moment? I think that's going to be a big question, because we saw today he can teeter on the edge of, oh my goodness, this could go south really quickly. But those two players are so crucial, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them play and just how effective they can be in this MLS Cup.
Two of the best D-mids in the league. What you got? What are you looking forward to?
Should I sing the UConn fight song for Andre Blake? I haven't even mentioned UConn's win over BC in football this weekend, Charlie.
I was hoping you were going to forget about it.
Oh boy, no, I honestly, it goes back to what I was saying at the top of the show, Wiebe. We do this every year, and MLS Cup is fun every single year, no matter who's in it. Like, we've been really lucky with that. We've had a lot of great finals. We've got a lot of great teams in the final. What we haven't had is number one versus number two. There's no question, guys. There's no question these were the two best teams in the league this year. And we're spoiled to get this game. So that, more than anything else, is what I'm looking forward to. Though, obviously, as the week goes on, nerds like all of us will dig into the tactical approach. Anytime a 4-3-3 matches up against a 4-4-2 diamond, it creates sort of tension between central overload versus width, and how high do you put your fullbacks up if you're in the 4-4-2 team, and like how deep do you drop your wing, all of that fun stuff. But it's mostly number one versus number one. May the best team win.
All right, I just took notes here for extra time tomorrow. We are definitely hitting the shapes and how those two match up against each other. Charlie, have you recovered from the BC dig here? You have something for me? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, gosh. No, I'm still recovering from that. But I will say, you have two exciting teams. When you look at the front three for LAFC, I think Bouanga again showed how dangerous he is, just with his runs, his movement, his dribbling ability. Probably should have had 2 goals or so and a couple of assists to go with it. But I'm looking forward to the attacking options here, the front three of LAFC and the front two. Corey Burke came in Corey Burke fashion, dribbling off his shins and his knees and banging, just running hard, and just absolutely smacks it with his left foot. And you're just like, what? Cut off guard. But Carranza was solid, really good tonight, and Mikel Ura struggled. So if however that looks going into the final, I think those two need to be playing well for Philadelphia to win.
All right, Charlie can do that because he's scored in conference finals. And look across the page at Corey and say, "We both been there, man. We could both see that was a little fortunate for you. For me, I was at that first game, as I said, at the bank. The culture around the club, around the stadium, what they've done in such a short period of time, it truly is special. And for them to be on the big stage in the big moment with the big opportunity that they've been chasing for their entire existence, and I know a lot of MLS teams out there are saying, hold on, that's not even that long, but it's a moment that they've invested in financially, emotionally, and sort of spiritually as a club. And so I cannot wait to see what the bank feels like, how it's hopping, what the 3252 does next weekend on Fox and Unimas. It is going to be so special. It is going to be the spectacle that the league deserves to cap the 2022 season. These are also spectacles. I guess, Charlie, you're there. You got LAFC, right?
I'm still there. I'm still there.
You're almost there. You got a chance. You got the winner.
Yeah.
Others, not so much of a chance.
You started out hot, Wiebe. You really did. Yeah,
I did. I was throwing a lot of weeds for Damas around on Twitter, and who has a perfect bracket? Raise your hand. But when you take chances, you get punished, unfortunately. So
absolutely thrashed.
I got punished. And Doyle,
Doyle's still in it too.
Sides here. You got Charlie on one side, Doyle on the other, seeing if their bracket challenge.
I guess I really am rooting for the Union, aren't I?
You are.
We don't have yours. We don't have yours, Jordan. How any care to comment on how you did in the bracket challenge?
She had the crew winning it all.
I had Montreal winning.
You and I, kindred spirits.
Really thinking they were going to do it.
All right. Big thank you to all three of you, Charlie Davies, Jordan Angeli, Matt Doyle. Thanks to all the folks behind the scenes that make this possible. Anders Arhus back there doing his thing. Thomas Formoso and the gang. Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching as well. More content to come this week as we head to Los Angeles. Extra Time will be on the ground on Thursday. So tune in for that one. Full preview coming your way. With that, into the night we go. Enjoy yours. Enjoy the week, folks. Ooh.